federal indictment unsealed, revealing the charges the former president Donald Trump, including willful retention conspiracy to obstruct justice and false statements. Good evening. I'm Tiffany Kenny.
And I'm Felicia Rodriguez. Trump becoming the first ever former president to be indicted by a federal grand jury. Trump was indicted yesterday in Miami for alleged mishandling of classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago estate nearly 1 year ago. We have team coverage on these federal charges.
Let's start with our evening co-anchor, Todd McDermott, who is outside the Mar-a-Lago estate. Todd?
Tiffany, Felicia, again, the key here, now that the indictment has been unsealed, that 49-page indictment is that thing you mentioned, 31 counts of willful retention of national defense information. Let me explain what that is. That includes top secret material on nuclear programs, attack plans, and the U.S. vulnerability to military attacks on U.S. soil, along with one count each of conspiracy to obstruct justice, withholding a document or a record, corruptly concealing a document or record, concealing a document in a federal investigation, scheme to conceal, and false statements and representations. Again, that's the total, 37 federal counts. Again, no president or ex-president has ever been charged with a federal crime up until now. The indictment also tracked how boxes were moved around Mar-a-Lago, across the water from you now, after Donald Trump left the White House. The indictment says documents were found all over Mar-a-Lago, including a ballroom, a bathroom, in a shower, in an office space believed to be Donald Trump's own office space, his bedroom, as well as a storage room. The indictment also revealed that the FBI seized 27 documents from Trump's office, and a total of 75 were seized from a storage room at the estate. Just a short time ago, the special counsel, Jack Smith, talked about this unsealed indictment.
We have one set of laws in this country, and they apply to everyone. Applying those laws, collecting facts, that's what determines the outcome of an investigation. Nothing more and nothing less.
Again, he talked about the same law applying to all. We know that former President Trump is expected to be He's been summoned to the federal courthouse in Miami Tuesday, 3 p.m. We don't know exactly what time he'll arrive, but that is the scheduled time. He also made changes to his legal team today, announcing on his social media platform that attorneys Jim Trusty and John Rowley would no longer represent him in this case. They have been, and as well as been making public statements on his behalf. Minutes later, those men issued a joint statement saying they had resigned, but again, maintained goodwill with the former president. Mr. Trump wrote that he will now be represented by Todd Blanche, a defense attorney he hired in April after being indicted in Manhattan. Our team coverage now continues with Terry Parker, who's down at the federal courthouse in Miami for a look at what happens come Tuesday. Terry?
Hello, Todd. Yes, this Miami federal courthouse, where we've been for the past 3 days, is where the former president, Donald Trump, will appear on Tuesday afternoon to be formally arraigned on that 37-count criminal indictment, which was unsealed just this afternoon after a grand jury here handed it up last night. When the former president appears in Miami federal court Tuesday afternoon, he will be formally arraigned on the 37 counts pending against him. Palm Beach County State Attorney Dave Ehrenberg lays out the procedure.
Trump will plead not guilty, and he'll get a pretrial release where he'll be able to go home. I don't think they will require him to stay in jail pending trial. I think that's highly unlikely. I think he'll be able to go home to Mar-a-Lago and wait for the trial there.
The judge initially assigned to the case, Eileen Cannon, was appointed by Trump and made several rulings favorable to him on the case during the initial investigation seeking to retrieve the documents. It is unclear if she will remain on the case for the trial or not. Meantime, this highly unusual step of federally indicting a former president has Trump's base and Republicans leveling accusations against the Biden administration and the Department of Justice, asking why Trump is being prosecuted when Biden and former Vice President Mike Pence also kept White House documents at their homes.
I mean, when it came to Mike Pence, they did an investigation of him as well. So there are special counsels for Donald Trump and for Joe Biden. But the Joe Biden situation is far different than Donald Trump. Joe Biden isn't accused of obstructing justice. Joe Biden called the feds when these documents were discovered. That's very different than Trump, who allegedly tried to hide these documents from the feds, never cooperated, and allegedly obstructed.
And Ehrenberg says it's obvious that the special counsel is trying to sidestep any accusations of this being a political ploy by bringing the charges here in Florida, a state largely favorable to Donald Trump, rather than in Washington, D.C., which is largely Democratic. Live in Miami, I'm Terry Parker. Todd, back to you.
Terry, thank you for that. And again, the alleged crimes mostly took place, we believe, according to the special counsel, right behind me at Mar-a-Lago here on Palm Beach. We're also hearing that an aide to the former president was indicted today. That's part of the conspiracy mentioned in these charges. He is indicted in the mishandling of the classified documents as well. His name is Walton Nauta. His indictment is the second in the special counsel's investigation. He was allegedly involved in moving the classified material at Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort at the former president's orders. As investigators say, video showed him moving the boxes right before the FBI executed their search warrant. Posting on his social media platform again, Donald Trump said today that the Department of Justice is, quote, trying to ruin his life. I want to bring in Andrew Rozier, who's been looking at the possible impact. Everybody wants to know what this will do to the race for the GOP nomination and the race for president.
Well, Todd, as you know, even though the former president is indicted, he can still run. But this is uncharted waters. And we reached out to a law professor today. We also talked to a criminal defense attorney to find out how we got here and where do we go from here.
Less than 24 hours after former President Donald Trump announced on his social media platform that he has been indicted by the Department of Justice, we reached out to experts to explain how we got here and the political implications. Tamabeth Kudman is a criminal defense lawyer in Palm Beach County. She says initially the investigation was handled by the Department of Justice with Department of Justice attorneys. But as soon as Trump became a nominee and President Joe Biden announced his re-election, a special prosecutor was assigned to handle the investigation.
So that is done to eliminate the appearance of political motivation for any charging decisions.
She says an independent prosecutor was brought in specifically to be neutral.
If the Department of Justice were to come to a different conclusion than the special prosecutor or overrule any of his decisions, Merrick Garland would have to justify that decision-making in a very detailed memorandum.
Kevin Wagner is a professor of political science at Florida Atlantic University in Boca Raton. We asked him to explain what type of impact would this have on future politics here in the U.S.
We've never seen anything like this, certainly not in the modern era in any way. And so what it means for our politics is going to be hard to project, though. I mean, you can certainly see one of the first things happening is that there's a very partisan reaction to the indictment.
Now, coming up at 6, we'll hear again from both experts. And Todd, Professor Wagner said the bottom line is that the voters will decide this.
Which is the whole idea. All right, Angela, thank you. I'll see you in less than an hour. Again, we'll be covering this breaking story throughout all of our newscasts and for the days and weeks, months, and more to come, of course. You can also find the latest on our coverage on the charges and this unsealed indictment now and the investigation itself on our website. That's WPBF.com, as well as the WPBF 25 News app. Make sure your push alerts are turned on your device so you get the latest information sent directly to your phone. For right now, I'm Todd McDermott live across the Mar-a-Lago, Palm Beach, and I'll be back in the next half hour. Tiffany, Felicia?
Todd, thank you. As all this unfolded this afternoon, President Biden is in North Carolina touting his economic agenda and pledges support to military families. While there, reporters asked him if he has spoken to Attorney General Merrick Garland on the indictment. He says, quote, "I have not spoken to him at all, and I am not going to speak to him. I have no comment on that." Glenn?